Welcome to today's roast, ladies and gentlemen. We're tackling one of Asia's most laughable myths, the idea that Japan's education system is some kind of sacred Mount Fuji of learning. You've heard it before. Japan is so diligent. Japanese students are the smartest in Asia. Their IQ is 109, sugoi desune. Reality check. Japan's schools are basically glorified daycares with uniforms. Meanwhile, Singapore, the tiny red dot, the country most Japanese people couldn't even find on a map, has managed to build an education system that makes Japan's look like a kindergartner's colouring book. But hold on, don't click away yet. I know the first instinct is, it's just another boring comparison video. No, my friend, stick around for the next 10 minutes and you'll discover why Japanese kids spend 12 years memorizing 2,000 English words. Yes, 12 years for a vocabulary smaller than your average Pokemon list. How Singapore built an English-first curriculum that terrifies Japanese nationalists. Why Japanese adults never open a dictionary after graduation. While Singaporeans casually switch between English, Mandarin, Malay, and Tamil at the coffee shop. And why the world respects Singapore's students, while Japan's are known internationally for one skill only, sleeping on trains. So grab your kopio, sip your matcha, and let's expose the education myth. For decades, Japan has sold the world a fairy tale. The diligent Japanese student, bowing politely, studying all night, destined to become a genius engineer at Sony or a Nobel Prize winner. Sounds inspiring, right? Except it's mostly anime. Let's be brutally honest. The Japanese education system is not a temple of learning, it's a factory of obedience. Schools don't teach kids how to think, they teach them how to sit, copy, and stay silent. Creativity? Killed off before lunch. Critical thinking? That's considered rebellious. Asking questions? Teachers will stare at you like you just farted in the emperor's palace. Meanwhile, Japanese parents comfort themselves with the legendary IQ myth. Japanese people are born smarter. We don't need to speak English or learn global skills. Ah, yes, the classic move. Blame DNA, not the system. It's like failing an exam and saying, well, my ancestors just weren't good at math. Now compare that to Singapore. This tiny island had no natural resources, no space, no second chances. They built their education system as a survival weapon. Every Singaporean kid knows English before they even know how to use chopsticks. And here's the killer part. They're not just bilingual. They juggle multiple languages daily, shifting between English at school, Mandarin at home, Malay with friends, and Singlish on the street. That's not IQ 109, that's training your brain to run marathons while Japan is still limping through a spelling bee. Japan's excuse? We don't need English, we're an island nation. Congratulations, so is Singapore. The difference is one island turned itself into a financial powerhouse, while the other is still pretending Doraemon is a global export strategy. So let's set the record straight. Japan's education system isn't broken. It was never designed to succeed globally. It was designed to make you a loyal company drone, not a world-class thinker. And in the 21st century, that myth has finally been exposed. If Japan's education is about memorizing until your soul evaporates, Singapore's is about survival of the fittest, but in the best possible way. This is a country that knew from day one, no oil, no land, no natural resources. If the citizens aren't sharp, the nation doesn't eat. Simple. So what did they do? They built an education system sharper than a sushi knife, except this one actually cuts through global competition. Singapore made English the working language, not out of some colonial nostalgia, but because they understood the obvious. If you want to compete internationally, you have to speak the international language. Japan still doesn't get that. To this day, Japanese textbooks treat English like it's an optional foreign hobby, on the same level as calligraphy club. In Singapore, kids are trained from the start to think in English, then switch to Mandarin, Malay, or Tamil as naturally as flipping a light switch. That's not just language ability, that's cognitive cross-training. It's why Singaporeans walk into global boardrooms at 25, while Japanese fresh grads are still practicing how to bow at a 15-degree angle. And here's the brutal part. Singapore didn't just teach kids to memorize, They taught them to compete. National exams are tough, yes, but they reward critical thinking and problem solving. It's the difference between knowing how to recite a math formula and actually being able to use it in real life. Japan? They still train students to pass multiple choice tests as if the rest of the world cares about your ability to circle B. The result? Singapore's students dominate global rankings, math, science, reading, year after year. Japan, once the pride of Asia, now slips further down, comforted only by nostalgia and anime stereotypes about being the smartest nation. Meanwhile, Singapore's graduates are snatching jobs at Google, Microsoft, and international banks, while Japanese grads dream of lifetime employment at Lawson Convenience Store HQ. Singapore weaponized education as a tool of global survival. Japan weaponized it as a tool of national obedience. Guess which one aged better? Here's the punchline of Asia's education comedy. Singaporeans speak better English than the Japanese ever dreamed of. And it's not just better, it's not even the same league. It's like comparing Lionel Messi to a guy still learning how to tie his shoelaces. Singapore's secret weapon is simple. English is not treated like a foreign language. It's the default. The classroom, the workplace, even government debates, all in English. By the time a Singaporean hits primary school, they can read Shakespeare better than a Japanese college student can read an IKEA manual. Meanwhile, in Japan, English is a 12-year hostage situation. Kids memorize 2,000 vocabulary words over an entire school career. That's fewer than the number of emojis on your phone. Ask a Japanese high schooler to say a basic sentence, and they freeze like you've just asked them to solve nuclear physics. This is a pen has been drilled into their heads since 1960, and that's still where the conversation usually ends. And let's not forget pronunciation. In Singapore, you might hear Singlish, colourful, fast, streetwise, but it's alive. It works. In Japan, the English accent is so tortured it should be investigated by Amnesty International. Besa Baru Baru for baseball, McDonarudo for McDonald's. Honestly, it's a linguistic crime scene. Here's the kicker. Japan excuses itself by saying, we don't need English, we're an island. Oh really? So is Singapore. The difference is Singapore opened itself to the world, while Japan closed the shutters and now wonders why nobody knocks on the door. The results are undeniable. Singaporean graduates run international companies, argue cases in global courts, and trade across continents. Japanese graduates? They're still writing company reports that require 3 Hanko stamps just to approve a stapler purchase. English is the passport to the world, and Singapore made sure every kid had one. Japan? They issued their children train passes instead, to ride the subway back and forth between cram school and karaoke bars. Let's be real. If you want a nation of obedient robots, send them to Japan's schools. If you want a nation of innovators, send them to Singapore's. Japanese education is obsessed with conformity. Sit straight, wear the same haircut, never question the teacher, and if you dare colour outside the lines, literally or metaphorically, prepare for social execution. That's why classrooms in Japan look like military camps. The uniforms? Identical. The answers? Identical. The futures? Identical. It's less a school system and more a conveyor belt. Input child, output obedient salaryman. Meanwhile, in Singapore, yes, the exams are brutal. Yes, the pressure is insane. But the goal isn't to make you a clone. It's to make you competitive. Teachers actually encourage problem solving, not just parroting. Students debate, they present, they pitch ideas. Japanese students, they present silence. The only sound in a Japanese classroom is the teacher's voice and the faint hum of students' brains powering down for their mid-morning nap. And the results show. When Japan's youth finally land jobs, they follow instructions. They wait for orders. They don't take risks. Why do you think Japan's once mighty tech companies are fossils now? Because their workforce was trained to obey, not innovate. Compare that with Singapore, where even 20-year-olds are launching startups, building apps, and running hedge funds, while their Japanese counterparts are still filling out attendance sheets in perfect handwriting. Here's the tragedy. Japan wasn't always like this. Once upon a time, Japanese inventors gave the world Walkmans, bullet trains, and PlayStations, but the schools crushed that spark. Today's graduates are creative only when it comes to one thing: sleeping on trains without falling over. That's their national skill set. Singapore, on the other hand, has no patience for sleepers. Their model is simple: think fast, work smart, compete globally, or get left behind. And that's exactly why the global economy rewards Singaporeans with opportunity, while Japan rewards its own people with lifetime service at a convenience store chain. Conformity is comfortable, yes, but creativity wins wars, builds companies, and changes history. Singapore got the memo. Japan just filed it away with 3 Hanko stamps into the Do Not Disturb folder. Here's the part Japan hates the most: cold, hard numbers. Because once you look at global rankings, the education superpower fantasy collapses faster than Japan's birth rate. Take PISA, the global test that measures math, science, and reading. Singapore doesn't just do well, they dominate. Top of the charts, year after year. Their students treat calculus like a warm-up exercise and can write essays sharper than most Japanese politicians' speeches. Not that the bar is very high. Japan, once upon a time they hovered near the top, but today, sliding downward, comforted only by nostalgia and anime storylines about Japanese diligence. In reality, their reading comprehension is mediocre, their math performance is stagnant, and their English is, well, let's not even go there again unless we want another cringe compilation. Now look at universities. National University of Singapore, NUS, ranks among the world's best. Higher than Tokyo University, higher than Kyoto University. In fact, NUS beats Japan so consistently, it's practically bullying at this point. While Singapore graduates are snapped up by Goldman Sachs, Google, and world-class research labs, Japan's brightest end up in companies still faxing documents and bowing to middle managers. Employment outcomes tell the same story. Singapore's graduates land international positions, earning global salaries, working in finance, tech, medicine, and diplomacy. Japanese graduates? Many are locked into domestic jobs that pay $18,000 a year, where the most advanced technology they use is a stamp. And here's the final slap in the face: foreign parents. Ask wealthy Chinese or Indian families where they send their kids. Is it Japan? Absolutely not. They send them to Singapore, where education is globally respected, not to Japan, where education is just a cosplay of diligence. So yes, results don't lie. Japan is not number one. They're not even close anymore. Singapore stole the crown while Japan was too busy clapping for its own myths. The scoreboard is up, and Japan's only strategy left is pretending nobody cares. So where do these two nations go from here? Spoiler, the gap only widens. Japan's education system is like an old VHS tape, rewinding, replaying, never upgrading. They still believe the world will bow to them if they just keep drilling kanji and forcing kids into uniform obedience. But the global economy doesn't care about how neatly you can memorize a textbook. It cares about adaptability, languages, creativity, and global networks. On those fronts, Japan is basically a Nokia flip phone in the age of iPhones. Singapore, on the other hand, isn't just keeping up, they're accelerating. They've already embraced AI in classrooms, digital literacy, coding as a basic skill. While Japanese students are still handwriting essays with pencils, Singaporean kids are building apps and winning robotics competitions. Japan's idea of innovation is introducing tablets in class, except locked so tight you can't even open YouTube. Demographics make it worse. Japan's classrooms are shrinking thanks to the population collapse. Teachers are aging out. But instead of reform, the government doubles down on nostalgia. Meanwhile, Singapore's diverse and global population keeps feeding its education system fresh perspectives and international competitiveness. The workforce outcomes will be brutal. Singapore will continue exporting bankers, engineers, scientists, and diplomats. Japan will export idol groups, manga, and convenience store managers. Singapore will keep attracting global investment because its talent pool is bilingual, skilled, and adaptable. Japan? They'll keep asking why nobody wants to relocate to Tokyo unless they're an anime tourist. And here's the cruelest twist. Japan doesn't even realize it's losing. The myth of world-class education is still plastered across their media. Meanwhile, every major global ranking screams the truth. Singapore won, Japan is still asleep on the train. The future belongs to thinkers, not sleepers. Singapore trained thinkers, Japan trained sleepers. Game over. So there you have it. The myth is exposed. For decades, Japan strutted around pretending its education system was the envy of Asia, but reality slapped them in the face. Singapore, the so-called tiny red dot, outbuilt, outthought, and outperformed them in every measurable way. Japanese schools still produce obedient drones who can bow at the perfect angle, but can't survive a job interview in English. Singaporean schools produce graduates who argue with Harvard professors before lunch and close million-dollar deals before dinner. The scoreboard doesn't lie. PISA rankings don't lie. University standings don't lie. The only people lying are the ones still clinging to the fantasy that Japan is a global education model. That's not a model. That's cosplay. And here's the brutal truth. Unless Japan rewires its entire education philosophy, away from conformity, away from memorization, away from this national allergy to English, it will keep sliding further down the global ladder. Meanwhile, Singapore will keep doing what it does best, punching way above its weight. So the next time someone tells you Japan is the most educated nation in Asia, feel free to laugh. Politely, of course. Then remind them that in today's world, being good at memorizing kanji isn't a superpower. Speaking global English, coding apps, debating ideas, and thinking critically, that's the future. And Singapore owns it. But hey, don't take my word for it. Just ask the global companies hiring. They already made their choice. If you enjoyed this roast and you're tired of myths about Japan being repeated like karaoke lyrics, hit that like button, subscribe, and share this video. Because exposing myths is fun, but exposing Japan's myths, that's an Olympic sport.